Morning, boys. What's going on?
Well, we know the schedule now. We have the dates. We have the times, most of the times. And we have a pretty good feel for how they will lay out in front of the Bears. I did not see the paper this morning, the physical paper. I looked online, and I follow you online, but I did not see your predictions. Have you made predictions, and what do you believe the record will be in 2025?
Yeah, I think it's on the website by now. I don't know for sure. I haven't
seen
myself.
it. Nope. Got to get them going on there, Brad. Got to get them updating things quicker.
Yeah, well, I got other stuff going on this morning as well, my friend. But I got them 8-9.
Nice.
Our prediction, it's been on there since 6 a.m.
Has it? Well, not on the phone. All right, fine. Won't quibble. 8-9. Where do you got them losing? What's the toughest stretch? What do you think? Because Mully and I have 9-8. Dustin went 10 wins. Brandon's 9-8. So we all have relatively similar types of outlooks.
They were 5-12, by the way.
I mean, the toughest. Take a look at week 4 through week 14.
Okay.
They've got 3 home games in the middle of that. Yeah. Now they've got a bye week in there as well, but between September 28th at Las Vegas and December 7th at Green Bay, so a stretch of more than 2 months. Home games in week 7 against New Orleans, week 10 against the Giants, and week 12 against Pittsburgh. So the point I made is that they should just leave their luggage out. You know, you get home, you pull your stuff out of your suitcase, and you just kind of leave the suitcase out. There's no need to put it in the closet because they're going to need it the next week. And that of course helps them finish at home. They're late in the year, 3 of the final 4, including Packers in week 16, Lions in week 18 at home. And for those to be meaningful games, for the Bears to look at that and say, "Hey, this is great. We got Detroit and Green Bay at home." For them to be ahead in the playoff hunt or firmly in the mix come mid-December, they're going to have to show that they can handle the rigors of the road a little bit.
I really believe that the beginning of the season is important for them to make some hay. Like the Vikings coming in on Monday Night Football. I know the Vikings are good, and I know there are reasons to concern yourself, but it is J.J. McCarthy's debut, most likely, unless Aaron Rodgers signs. No.
Or unless something happens to him in training camp.
But I think that if you can split the first 2 games, you can beat Dallas at home and you can win at the Raiders, and then all of a sudden you're going into the bye week with a little momentum, and maybe the bye week helps you when you go for the Hail Mary revenge game. Yeah,
you make a good point, Mully, and it's certainly going to be a charged up atmosphere for that Monday night opener against Minnesota, and they don't want to stumble out of the gate. And you'd think that they'll be certainly playing better football in the second half of the season than in the first half. But it's a tough schedule. You just look at some of the teams on here. Look at the quarterbacks. Look at the quarterbacks that they've got to play on the road. And that's going to be challenging. Top 9 players in sacks last season. Bears play 7 of them. That's assuming Trey Hendrickson either stays in a Bengals uniform or lands with another team that'll be on the Bears' schedule this season. But it's not just good quarterbacks they've got coming in and having to deal with. They've got to handle some elite pass rushers, and hopefully the rebuilt offensive line will make that task more manageable.
There are 2 things about the schedule that I don't particularly like. I think opening with the Vikings is not a good matchup on Monday Night Football, and the Lions right after that is bad. And then later in the season, Brad, playing the Packers twice in the span of 13 days is very unusual. I'm not sure that's happened before, and I wonder why it's happening now. But that's not, I don't think, great for that rivalry.
Yeah, you kind of want to avoid that, and the league tries to avoid that. I know there's been situations that I can recall of in the not too distant past where they've had maybe Minnesota or Detroit in very close proximity on the schedule. So, every once in a while, when you're trying to make this schedule for 32 teams, you're going to get things of that nature. Not ideal, but what you see the first time should closely resemble what you're going to see the second time. You wouldn't expect either team to have a whole lot of injury differences between the first meeting and the second meeting, because like you look at that Minnesota and Detroit games, and both those teams could deal with some big issues between the first meeting and the second meeting.
So much of this is going to come down to the relationship between the head coach and the quarterback, and the development of the quarterback, and the scheme and the quarterback working in harmony. Do you anticipate that to be worked out well? Did you get any information at these mini camps about how hard the quarterback's working, how well he's adjusting? I mean, this is all stuff that is kind of hope and dream at this point, because we don't know exactly what is going on. And I just wonder, it's fun to get updates on different things, but the season will rely upon what it relied upon a year ago, and it for some reason didn't work out.
Yeah, everything I've heard has been positive to this point, but I don't know. I don't know what teams are putting their dirty laundry out there in May anywhere around the league. So there's a lot of work to be done. And one of the things that I thought was interesting that Ben Johnson talked about last week was how, when they're getting down to the fundamentals with some of this stuff, it's okay, what's the formation look like? Like that they hadn't just gone straight in and putting plays in or anything like that. It's how do we want this blocking scheme to look? Like what's that going to look like? So they've got a real long ways to go, and the quarterback and everyone else has an awful lot of work to do.
I don't think this is realistic, but I just wonder, Brad, because of the way the schedule falls, and immediately you're into the divisional race. And if you have aspirations of being a playoff team or even competing for the NFC North, taking the North, if you will, are you going to treat, if you're Ben Johnson, the training camp any differently? Are you going to maybe keep things more basic so you're not overwhelming your offense with everything to learn by the first matchup against Brian Flores, who's going to confuse the heck out of you anyway? Are you going to change your approach in terms of install or anything like that in preseason because of the challenge that is immediate on your schedule?
I don't think so, Dave, because all these games are super important, right? Like if coming out of the gate they had an AFC North tour of
the Browns,
Pittsburgh and Cleveland, you still got to go out there and do your thing to have an opportunity to win those games.
Yeah.
Like someone I was chatting with last night, it's like, well, they got the Steelers, they'll win that. And I'm like, well, the Steelers, Mike Tomlin's done a pretty good job there for a really long time. Like I wouldn't circle the Pittsburgh and say, yeah, they got one there. You want to do that with New Orleans, go right ahead, or Cleveland's more in that category, but it's still the NFL. They've got to. I don't think they approach it any differently, Dave. I really don't.
Brad, when we look at the Bears most years, we sit there and we say, "Oh, they did a good job, but they did miss this, or if only they had done that." It's just the nature of seeking perfection. They feel, looking at them at this point, maybe they're a running back short if they want to be this great play action team. Maybe they're a pass rusher short if they want to be a really sturdy defense. And I'm just wondering, do you anticipate, is there a scenario or a world in which they address some other issues, be it those issues or other things? What do you think they are lacking at this point?
Well, I think just in terms of having a depth chart to handle the load in training camp and eyeing the preseason, there's probably going to be a running back added at some point. Now,
Right.
Is that a running back with considerable experience and some success on his resume? Is that a running back with not a lot of experience, but maybe some traits that they sort of like? Is that a running back nobody's ever heard of? I don't know what it's going to look like, but just looking at what they have under contract right now, knowing that they don't want to give their primary guys a ton of carries in preseason, that you see those guys getting 8 carries in the second half of a preseason game where you're like, where'd he go to school again? They probably add someone there. Again, I think there's a range for what that player could look like, and you're going to have a multitude of factors, primarily starting with how these coaches feel about the players that they currently have, and that's going to take some time. They're going to have to get a look at them, and then what the available players that the Bears might have interest in. What are they asking for? Things of that nature. In terms of the pass rusher, I think you're monitoring it a little bit, but a lot of this pass rusher conversation is almost completely ignored Dio, who they signed
Right.
for $16 million a year in free agency. The hope is that this guy becomes one of these household pass rushing names, right?
Mm-hmm.
The hope is, and they're betting big on him. He's a guy. I think I remember telling you guys when I was at the combine or just after I got back that talking to people with a wide variety of teams. I'm talking 6, 7, 8 different people, just bouncing names off him. The pay range for that guy going into free agency was all over the map. No one had any clue. It could be real modest or it could be real big, but there were numerous people that thought he could get a whole lot of money. Obviously, the Bears were in that camp.
Yeah.
They paid him a bunch of money, but that's because there's this thinking that he could be the kind of guy that's putting forth production that earns that level of pay.
Brad, you have them at 8 and 9. Mully and I have them at 9 and 8, and I think those are
Dustin's at 15 and
Dustin's
2?
got 10 victories. That's reasonable.
Oh.
I think all these are kind of reasonable, defensible predictions. But I wonder this: when you look at this season and you look at the schedule now, what justifies the hype? What justifies the hype surrounding Ben Johnson, the hope invested in him as the hottest head coaching candidate available? What record does he have to attain for this to be all justified?
Oh boy, I mean, you're putting a number on it, but I think you want to look at the offense. You want to look at how you feel about how the players are performing. Some people would probably dismiss the idea that 8 wins would be an improvement for these guys, but they were 5 and 12 last place team. They've got a massive amount of ground to close to get running in the division. They're 7 and 23 in the NFC North over the last 5 seasons. So I think you get to 8 or 9 and you feel like things are probably moving in the right direction, especially if the offense is showing development over the course of the season, that you feel better about it at the end of the year than you did at the start of the year. If you have continued optimism in the quarterback, Caleb Williams, like that would look like success to me, right?
Mm-hmm. You know, I to answer that question, I honestly think it comes down to the idea that the guy has produced the best offense in the NFL over the last few years. And have the Bears ever had that? Have they ever had, dating back to when they shocked the nation with the T formation? I don't know that they've ever had anyone that was considered like a great offensive mind or an innovative offensive mind. And he comes with a former head coach who can run a defense. Like, is it possible that people even outside Chicago feel they've upgraded from the head coach in two spots, both the head coach and in the defensive guy? So, and I'm not dissing Flus. I'm just saying that would explain maybe part of the hype. Pro Football Focus named them the best A+ off season contribution, the winners of the off season. We know that
wins a parade, Brad.
That's a damning thing to win.
Guys, they do that. They hang the banners in the Walter Payton Center.
Yeah, they do.
There's a ton of reason for optimism. When you're looking at the total picture, when you're considering a lot of factors, I think they probably end up somewhere around 500, and I could be wrong. I mean, they could go bonkers like they did under Matt Nagy in 2018.
Right.
I've got some questions about the defense, guys. This defense last year, 28th against the run, 31st in opponents' yards per attempt. Okay, they've got 8 starters back from that unit if you count the nickel corner, Tyler Gordon.
Is that the good news or the bad news?
No, but Billings is going to be back and healthy. That helps him. He's a run stuffer. They've got an upgrade at defensive tackle. I'm not arguing it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, like there was a mediocre defense a year ago, and so you're saying new voice, new scheme. Yeah, that can have an impact, but that defense wasn't good last year. And a lot of the conversation about Ben Johnson is centered around the offense, and as it should. But there's just before you get carried away with your win predictions and your thoughts.
Yeah.
I think there's some fair questions.
Are they short a linebacker, Brad?
Yes, they are.
That's
they are. They don't have a strong side linebacker right now. They really don't.
You can get Dave. You know as well as I do. You can go down to the same linebacker store and find one of those.
That store 24/7, is it open? Because you got running backs in there. There's offensive linemen that picked off the shelf.
I would check the dates on some of them, but yeah,
it's
open late.
You get an after-hours appointment.
Well, we know you know a guy who knows a guy.
You're the best, Big Z.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks,
See
Brad.
you, buddy. That's our dear friend, Brad Biggs.
He likes the stores.